Hello and welcome to the Built to Serve podcast. I'm your host, Mike Favre. I'm here with United States Marine Corps veteran Carlos Ruiz, who's also our Texas Region HR and Training Manager. Carlos, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Also joining us, he'll be the voice behind the camera today, John Emerson, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, John?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I can't complain, man. Glad to be here. So, Carlos, how was your drive in this morning?
Long.
Long. Actually,
Feels
Carlos
long.
and I, we had a conversation on the way here in preparation for the podcast. You had mentioned there was a really, really bad accident going down. Was that
Oh, it
I-10?
was.
It was westbound, right?
Yeah, right past Lake Charles. Yeah,
What was that like?
it was bad. It was the 18-wheeler blocked all the lanes, so it was pretty bad.
So if you're going westbound, it's backed up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was.
Hopefully they cleared it by now.
Well,
That
all this road
that was
construction and everything
earlier,
they've got
right?
around Baton Rouge, dude, it's hard to get around anyway.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, it's nice of you to join us, Carlos and I. We've built a relationship since I've become, the military workforce development guy for performance. Over the past year, you and I have developed a really, really strong relationship and trying to do multiple things. Right? We've tried to strengthen the veteran presence within our company. We're trying to bring in skilled workforce. We're trying to bring in unskilled workforce, and it's your job to help train these individuals, right? So
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So, along with just regular workforce, right, I focus somewhat on veterans as well. Obviously, being a veteran, it's kind of helped me want to help veterans find, sustainable work and make sure that we take care of them and find them good work. But what I do day to day is just make sure that the people have the proper training. We do a lot of leadership training, and that's kind of where I come in. We train our foremen from the time they become foremen. We bring them in and we we train them to be leaders and what performance expectations is as far as leadership is concerned. So that's where we go, and we do the same message across the board. My counterparts here in Baton Rouge do this. They give the same message across our different regions, and I'm just one resource to that.
Okay, wow. So there's a team of you guys, right?
Absolutely.
Each region has their own trainer and an HR manager. So kind of go through your team.
So Casey Page is our Mobile guy. So he's the one that takes care of the Mobile region. Jeremy Mobile is the one that takes care of here Baton Rouge, and I take care of Texas. So
Okay, so our workforce is spread out across the United States, right? So
Sure.
I'm assuming that each region, right, has their jobs. So if Texas has jobs in New Mexico, Arizona, you kind of cover that area. If Baton Rouge has jobs in different locations, they cover those, and then Casey in Mobile, he covers those, right?
Absolutely.
So, that sounds like it'd be pretty strenuous, right?
It's more strenuous for Casey than it is
Right,
anybody, right?
right.
Mobile's kind of spread everywhere. So, yeah, Casey's job kind of goes further than all of us do. I do travel to New Mexico, Arizona, and then all over Texas. But, we bid jobs all over the place. I
Right.
think we're working in like 37 states
Yeah,
right now.
it's
So
crazy.
it's crazy. Or we're licensed to work in 37 states.
It's
and so,
probably
yeah,
going to
it's
get
not-
even crazier now that we're starting boilers and everything else, so we're liable to. There's no telling where that's going to take us.
Absolutely.
There's no telling.
Absolutely.
So Casey's actually a veteran as well. He's a Navy
Yep.
guy. We haven't brought him on the show. It's in the making, right? And I'm trying to convince him now. But hey, nobody likes being in front of a camera, dude. It makes you nervous. I get it. I was there at one time. Usually it takes me 5 or 6 rounds of introduction before I get it right. John, he's usually the coach. Hey, just calm down, relax, brother. You got it.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got my wife on my back, tapping me, baby. It's gonna be okay. Going back, all right. We're gonna turn back the hands of time. Talk about where you're from, where you grew up. Bring me into high school.
So I am from a little town in Houston, or east side of Houston, southeast, I guess you want to say, called Galena Park.
Okay.
Galena Park, Texas. We actually moved there when I was 9. So back in aging myself, I guess 1989, right? So yeah, we moved there when I was 9, and I went elementary school all the way through high school. I mean, I think I got there in the 4th grade. So Galena Park is my home. It's where my parents live. It's where they still live to this day, 30 years later. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm from. So I grew up there, and I mean, high school for me was, I mean, we were a small 4A school, so for me it was, just the small town life. It wasn't very big,
Right.
because we don't have like a big population in Glen Park. It's a small city, but it is its own kind of little city, outside the city limits of Houston. So.
Okay. Did you play any sports coming into high school?
Yeah, I played baseball for a little bit. For 1 year, I was actually in ROTC, and they made me choose between sports and and ROTC.
Who is they?
The coach. My coach
Oh,
told
really?
me. Yeah, my head coach for my baseball team was like, you either play baseball or you stay in ROTC. So. I knew I was going in the military.
Okay,
So
that was my next question.
I knew I was going to the military, so ROTC was my choice. I dropped baseball after that, but yeah, I was in baseball for 1 season and kind of left after that. I mean, and it's mostly because ROTC did take up a lot of time for me.
Right.
So, I mean, there was always a drill that we were doing, or always some function. I mean, we went to Lackland Air Force Base every year to do competition, so we were training all the time for stuff
Wow.
like that.
Wow. So I'm pretty sure ROTC is kind of like an Army program, right?
No, ROTC is a program that focuses on the military. So each school has a different branch of service that they dedicate that to. So mine was Air Force. We were Air Force ROTC. I'm sure.
I'm learning all
sure,
sorts
yeah.
of good things about you. Yeah, we'll definitely hear something from Tori about that.
So, matter of fact, I mean, I wore the Air Force uniform for 4 years because all from 9th grade all the way to through my high school years, actually 3 years because I was only in high school for 3 years. So for 3 years, I wore the Air
Chair
Force uniform.
Force.
Yeah, what we like to call the Chair Force uniform.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. I actually served as the squadron commander, which was the top-ranking official for the ROTC my final year in high school. So yeah.
Wow. So
It
you
was-
were
it
in
was pretty cool.
I mean, you were in a leadership role while still
Absolutely.
in high school, right? I mean, and it's kind of cool, right? Being a leader in a military affiliated organization, right? Without being in the military. So you're already in preparation, right?
Absolutely.
You're being developed into one of the country's greatest leaders at a young age, right? So
Absolutely.
would you suggest that for people actually coming in? I mean, again, this podcast has many missions, right? We've got different people from all over the place that are watching this thing, and if you're a young man or woman, would you recommend it?
I would. I enjoyed it. I mean, it teaches you a lot of the stuff that you're going to learn in the military,
Right.
and it kind of gives you almost like an advantage when you go to boot camp because, I mean, I already knew how to wear a uniform, right? I already knew what some standards were. I knew what the Air Force's standards were, which were
Right.
not the Marine Corps standards by no means, right? But yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, you get to learn the drill side. I got to learn how to run to cadence. I mean, like a lot of stuff that you normally wouldn't even know until you get to boot camp.
Right.
So, and a lot of the branches will give you a rank or two depending on the branch of service. So, like the Army, for example, if you go in, if you have at least 2 years of ROTC, then they give you PFC, or right when you get out or when you
Okay.
graduate boot camp.
Okay.
Marine Corps only gives you one rank, so you go from private to PFC in a sense.
Right.
So it just depends on what branch of service you choose. So
Okay, I got you. All right. So you do ROTC, and then you've made up in your mind you're going to join the military.
sure.
What helped you make that decision, and why the Marine Corps?
So it started young for me. Like my uncle was in the Navy, and of course Navy and Marine Corps are pretty close. I knew I didn't want to be on the water all the time, so I'm just not. So I chose the Marine Corps since we're not necessarily on the water, we do all of it. So I chose the Marine Corps based on that. My brother did join the Air Force in my high school years, so I knew I didn't want to do that because then it's like following your brother's footsteps, right? And I wanted to do something different in a sense, not I guess I would say better, right? I want to be better than my brother, like,
Right.
That's
Well, you should have joined the Army.
Right. 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 Well, you should have joined the Marine Corps. It's more like that sounds better.
I don't want to choke on my coffee.
Yeah.
No, I get it. And look, we bring people on this thing all the time.
Right.
And we understand as veterans the camaraderie that goes along with being a veteran. We're not in the military anymore, so we don't get to do it in uniform, but we still carry that spirit, that sense of humor, and that sense of service, right? And it just comes out. It's hilarious between you and I. A civilian stands beside us, and he's like, I'm surprised he didn't just slap the taste out of his mouth,
Right.
People don't understand, right? We do it in fun. So, again, please don't take any offense for me saying that I'm Army and I'm better than Carlos, which I am. So, just saying,
So
that's
you say.
that. Well, again, to each his own. To each his own.
Right. Right.
John, who do you think's better, Marine Corps or Army?
I played the fifth.
He played the fifth.
Anyway, plead the fifth. So it's like Bill Clinton over there. So anyway, back to it. So you join the Marine Corps. You make the decision to join the Marine Corps. Was there ever a moment in transition from civilian to Marine Corps, actually en route to boot camp, where you were like, "Oh crap, what have I done?" Or I mean, what did that moment come?
I mean, there was a lot of emotions, right? I mean, when from the time they put us in MEPS, because they put you in MEPS the night before.
Right.
I mean, that's that first time you really get away from home, and in a sense, for me, right? I mean, it was the first time I had ever really jumped on a plane and gone anywhere. My family vacations were driving down south to the valley to visit family, right?
Right.
It was never like, hey, let's jump on a plane and go somewhere. I mean, so yeah, for me, it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions. It was a lot of oh no, did I make the right decision? Yeah. So you question yourself right before you leave, like, oh my God, what did I do, right? So yeah, and granted, I had 3 years of ROTC that were backing me up, that said, hey, I know what I'm doing, right? But it's still it's just a influx of emotion that you go through when you're leaving. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely times where I asked myself, yeah, I mean, did I make the right decision? What am I doing? Like, so yeah.
So dealing with that high level stress, I mean, you're questioning yourself. You're asking why. Dealing with that stress. How did you cope with it? How did you settle yourself down, or did you?
I mean, first day is hard. It was hard, I mean, you get there and everybody's yelling at you, everybody's telling you what to do, and it's just like, man, what did I really sign up for, or is this what I really signed up for? And I mean, I had a good recruiter, to be honest with you. The guy was great. He kind of coached me before I even left, and said, look, man, don't let it get to you. Like, let it go in one ear and out the other. Kind of like, what your parents always said every time they told you to do something, you did, right? It just went in one ear and out the other. So I kind of took that mentality and just said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I signed up to do this, and just took that. More than anything, it was more of a patriotism kind of thing. I was like, man, I'm doing this for my country. I want to serve. I want to do my part. So that's kind of what I always kept in the back of my head, going into it, was, hey, I'm trying to do what I feel is right. As far as my family, on my mom's side, my uncle was the only one that served. So, and then my brother, Air Force. I mean, what can you say, right? I mean, is that really serving? I mean,
Is that really serving?
So no, I just play it. But yeah. So I mean, I wanted to do more. I wanted to serve, and so for me, it was more of a patriotism thing, and I wanted to be the one that that did something and brought almost like something different to my family, right? Other than my uncle, right?
Right.
So that was kind of my mentality going into it.
Okay. What year did you go into boot camp?
I joined in '98. right?
Okay.
I actually graduated a year early from high school to to join the Marine Corps.
Okay. All right. So to kind of set the timeline, the way this normally works is we try to figure out where you're at on 9/11, right? So where were you at on 9/11?
I was in Bridgeport, California, on a cold weather training op.
Okay.
So I was actually in the Marine Corps. We watched the towers fall. We were, mixed emotions there too, of course, right? So yeah, I was in the Marine Corps doing cold weather training, and since we were doing cold weather training, we were actually told that we were going to be one of the first units to deploy because we had training that was very similar to what the terrain was at the time in Afghanistan. So they were talking about mobilizing the 6th Marine Regiment
Okay.
at that time. So yeah.
Nerves involved?
Nerves.
Oh,
I mean, emotions everywhere, right? I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, we sign up for it, but you always hope that it never happens, right? And so yeah, I mean, I was in my third year of enlistment. So for me, I'm like, man, I'm almost done. You know what I mean? I mean, so you look at it and you're just like, I mean, but you tell yourself if you got to go, you got to go.
Right.
So, but no, it was a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of, I mean, just we were all over the place. Everybody was. I mean, not just the military, the country, right? I mean,
Right.
we
We
were
were in shambles. We didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Toby Keith come out with the song, my daddy served in the Army,
Yeah.
things started to kind of pull themselves back together. I was singing that yesterday, hanging my flag up at the house.
I thought you were going to talk about Toby Keith's good song, "Call a Marine."
Oh, my God. This guy's got jokes, boy. This guy's got jokes. But look, hey, I mean, looking back now, and again, this is everybody in the country at some point. If you were alive during that day and that time, you realize that we just took a pounding, right?
Sure.
In that sense, the way I see it, we reunited as a country, right?
Absolutely.
And we built our military stronger than it had ever been before, behind one man, right? And one man's, I'm not going to say dream, but initiative to pay them back. And by them, I mean terrorists.
Sure.
It was a war on terror. We weren't after a country.
Right.
We weren't after a people. We were after a belief, right? And that's what actually helped me. Because at first I was like, oh no, the same way, just like I was in shambles, and then you rally up, some guy wearing brass comes out and says a few words and tries to motivate you. And that's not what really motivated me. It was the brotherhood that we had with my squad, or even in the Marine Corps, and we served with Marines. I mean, hey, you guys pretty much ran things in Iraq for the most of the part in the beginning. So we took everything that you had, and that's what we drove with. So that being said, in life, you can learn a lot from that. Just
Sure.
finding what you believe in, right? Holding on to that and help spreading that, right? Positivity. It goes a long way and it's contagious.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's my spill. But on to bigger and better. So you are out of the Marine Corps, right? You start transitioning out. What was that like?
It was hard. I mean, for me, it was very difficult because I had no intention on going to college. I had no intention on finding, my path in life. My path was the Marine Corps. So I was going to be a lifer. Like, I really thought that I was going to, be 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I have friends that did it, and I look back and I see them getting out because they've been getting out here recently. I mean, most of them have been hitting the 20, 25 year mark, and so a lot of them are getting out and they have their pensions, they have their, and that's what I wanted for me. That's truly what I wanted. I wanted to spend 20 years in the Marine Corps and get out and have a retirement. That was my retirement plan. So I didn't have a plan. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I got out in a sense, 4 years after I joined, and that was not my plan. It was by no means my plan. So for me, it was almost heartbreaking because that's what I wanted to do.
Oh wow.
So it was hard. You know, I struggled a lot trying to find gainful employment. You know, I mean, I turned to the jobs that wore the uniform. I mean, my first job out of the Marine Corps was as a security guard, right? Because I turned to the uniform, right? I thought maybe I could, serve as a security guard. And I tried that. I mean, low pay, they don't really care about you. You know, they say they do, but but I did that for about a year, and then I moved on to industrial work, and that's kind of where I started from the ground and just kind of worked my way into where I'm at now.
Okay. So I mean, when you got out of the military, you were married, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of toll did that take on your family? I mean, your parents, your wife. You know, if you had kids during that time, what kind of toll as a whole did that take on your family? That decision
What decision to get out?
to get out.
I mean, I couldn't get out fast enough, according to my ex-wife, right?
Ah.
So, I mean, and I think that kind of drove my decision to get out, right? I was trying to, in a sense, save my family, which is a lot of what a lot of us do, right? But I'm one of the statistics, right? Later on, 3 years later, we ended up in divorce. I kind of asked
Right.
myself I should have stayed in, right?
Right.
But it was difficult. It was very difficult as far as going through that. It sucks to move from North Carolina all the way back to Texas, and by that time you have 3 years of living in one place. So
Right.
that's all you know, right? So now you're packing up everything you have and shipping it back to Texas, to a place that you don't really know as an adult, right? I mean, I didn't have anything here, right? Everything was in North Carolina for me.
Right.
Because that's where I put my money, in a sense, and that's where I started my life, right? So yeah, it was very difficult for me to leave. I still say I'll go back to North Carolina one day, because it's a beautiful country, or
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful state,
Yep.
and they have a lot of good. I'll probably stay away from Jacksonville, right? But where the Marine Corps base is. But
Right.
as far as the state itself, I mean, it's a great place. I mean, they have fall, and they have seasons that we don't have in Texas, right? So,
Yeah.
but it was difficult. It was very, very difficult.
Wow. So, getting into the industrial world, and I'm not going to be specific and ask you which companies you work with, but how did that compare to the military? You know, that new structure versus the structure from the Marine Corps. Was it compatible or incompatible? Was it very different? What kind of go into detail as to what your mind set was?
I mean, my mindset was I wanted a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I never really looked at it when I was I was young. I was 22 when I got out of the Marine
Okay.
Corps. So, and I had just turned 22. So for me, it was like I said, it was difficult because I'm just learning about life, right? So when I got into the industrial sector, it was changed. It was different, but a lot of the things that the industrial sector does is kind of similar to what we do in the military. I guess you want to say. So they have they use a lot of the same stuff that we do in the military. So FRCs, for example, I mean, everybody's in a uniform in a sense,
That's
right?
right.
So
Yeah,
you do see stuff like that. When I came to industrial work, I came in as a dispatcher. Like, I was sending people to work, and I was in an office, but I'm the type of person that always looking for that something more, right? And that's what we've always been taught, right? In the military, we've always been taught, hey, look for that next rank. How do I get that next rank? If I'm a PFC, how do I get to Lance Corporal? If I'm a Lance Corporal, how do I get to Corporal, right? And there's requirements that we do in the military that gives us that next step, right? So when you get out, when I got out here, I brought that with me and said, okay, what can I do to better myself, to find a better job, I didn't know that I was looking for a career, right? but that's what I was doing. I was looking for my alternative career to the military because, again, my career path was 20 years of service, right?
Right.
So when I moved into industrial work, I started out as a dispatcher, and I just tried to work my way to the next day. So, okay, how do I make more money? And that's just what I asked myself every single time I'd see somebody. Oh, that guy makes more money than me. So how do I get there? Like, how do I make that kind of money? And that's what I did. I honestly, I never stopped working to better myself.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of one of the things that I pull back from from my military service is, you always want to get to that next rank. So how do you get better in a sense?
That's a great point. I might have said this in a previous episode. I learned something in the military, and this you can apply this in every aspect of life. If you have a goal, let's just say you're in the Army, you're a PFC, which is E3, right? I think that's your E2, right?
E2, yeah.
So you have a dream of being a first sergeant, all right? So, which is an E8. So you write it down on a piece of paper, right? Number 1. And then down here at the very bottom of the page, you write your goal. Then you number those lines between number 1 and your goal. And you write down the steps that it's going to take to get to that goal, right? This is a plan of attack, right?
Sure.
This is my battle plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to strive every day to knock one of these things out. And I did that. And then we got activated and deployed, and I didn't get to execute much more, like 3 lines or so. But that's what helped me get here today, right? Is setting a goal and striving every day to reach that destination, to reach that goal. And I think if it doesn't matter if you're military, a veteran, or a civilian, if you use that practice, you're setting yourself up for success. If you don't have a battle plan, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Do you agree?
I agree, 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
And
I mean, in the military, they give you those, like, what you got to do to get to that next level, right?
That's right.
I mean, for corporals, you got to do corporal's course, and then you got to do, there's things that you have to do in order to get to that.
Yep.
In life, there's no path. You make your own path, right? So it's you, if you don't have that drive, right, then yeah, I mean, it's gonna. And don't get me wrong, it took me a long time to figure that out. I mean, I was lost for the first 8 years.
right.
I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I would take any job that anybody gave me, sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs just to maintain, I mean, because, but yeah, I mean, if you don't have that somebody telling you, here's how you get there, and you're not asking those questions, then you don't have a battle plan, right?
That's right.
And you don't, so.
And that's what this podcast is supposed to do. This is a tool, right?
Sure.
That we're using to spread that message. We want people to listen. We want you to understand, to set yourself up, right? There's unlimited opportunities out there. You just have to ask the right questions, get to know these people that are in these positions of authority that can give you these answers, build that battle plan.
Right.
And then, you just shoot. Be motivated. Wake up in the morning, make your bed, right? Make your bed, strive for the next goal. Do these things. You're setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely.
But so out of all of that, you're in industrial construction at this point. Was there a figure in your life, a man, woman, child, adult, that just, really, really stood out throughout your life that helped coach you through these moments, these hard times, help you make your battle plan? Who was that? How did you meet that individual, and what's your relationship with he or she now?
So, I mean, mine I've known all my life, right? I mean, I'm going to refer back to my dad. Like, my dad had a certain way of doing things. I mean, he spent almost 30 years in safety, right? And growing up, that's all I knew, right? All I knew is my dad was a safety guy, and he went to the same job every day. And to see somebody like that where they go to the same job every single day and they come home at the exact same time every single day, in a sense, it gave me a sense of like, okay, that's what I want for my life. I want to be able to go to the same job every day and say that I spent 30 years with this company, right? and again, coming from somebody who doesn't really, have other than a high school education, right? And I mean my military career, but other than that, I mean, what do I have to show or to prove, right? So it took a lot of like my dad coaching me, telling me, hey, learn OSHA, learn this, learn that. And actually, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I didn't want to be like my dad. I actually looked back and said, oh, okay, that's your career. That's what you wanted to do.
Right.
That's not what I want to do, but I didn't even know what I wanted to do, right?
Okay.
So I would do like other things. I mean, yes, I worked industrial construction in the plants, and it wasn't industrial construction, it was industrial work, like industrial cleaning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I worked hydroblasters and stuff like that and worked my way up into supervision, right?
Okay.
And then I sold safety and like, I mean, so never really holding a job for more than a couple of years. Like that was my thing. Like I never could stay put. And it wasn't until I found like a true path that I found like in safety in a sense. When I found a career path, that's when I found like a little bit more stability. Right, and even then, I mean, I was always trying to grow, and if you halted my growth path, then I was gonna find something else to or somebody else that would help me grow. So that was kind of my mentality at the time. I was still growing. I didn't really see the value other than my dad, right? And I saw my dad sit at the same place for 30 years, and I said, I don't want to sit at the same place for 30 years. I want to work for a company for 30 years, but I want that company to advance me. I want that company to show me, like the military would, show me some sort of advancement. So I spent 20 years looking for the job I have, right? It wasn't something that came overnight, and it wasn't something that, you got to work for it, right? You got to continuously look and say, always trying to better yourself, right? I knew that supervisor wasn't the end game for me. I didn't want to retire as supervisor. I wanted to do something more. Where can I be more effective, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So when I moved into safety, and my dad always told me, he's like, yeah, that career in safety will give you that stability, that pathway that you want, right? And I did. I started at the bottom as a safety tech, and then just worked my way up to safety management, and that kind of led to the role that I'm at now, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, without my dad's stability and him showing me what a real career path looks like, I mean, I would have never been where I'm at today, right?
Right. That's what a lot of people that come on here say. A lot of people might say it's their Uncle Joe or their, the president or whatever. When you get put on the spot, people tend to say their dads. And that kind of, as a father, it kind of makes us think, we need to do what we can to be that figure in our child's lives.
Sure.
And it's tough. I'm going to kind of get off in the weeds here, but as fathers, you and I both, especially, if you're a father of a son, there's a sense of a tough love there,
Sure.
And then if you have a daughter, it's more of a tender kind of, I don't know the proper words for it. I know it's a soft love that I have for my daughter, right? And then, with your son, the old folks, I say old folks, elders, you have that strong hand, whatever you want to call it. I feel as if the military, gave me that.
Sure.
Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I'm tough on even my daughters, and I think it's a Marine thing. There's time, and now there's been times where you question yourself: are you being too tough? Right.
Right. Exactly.
Especially with girls, right?
Yep.
And that's a whole nother thing that nobody even wants to dive into, right? Because sometimes we don't admit that we messed up in a sense, or we're being too tough, too hard, right? But I mean, I'm a father of 5 girls, right? So I have 5 girls and 1 boy, and my boy is only 3. So I don't know what it's like to raise boys just yet, right? So I'm still learning raising the boys. I've been raising girls for 20 years. That sounds bad, but it's been 23 years. My oldest is 23, right? She was born in North Carolina. I like to mess with her too. Tell her she's not from Texas, right? Because
No,
she
I
grew
get
up
it.
in Texas, so it's funny. But no, I mean, yeah. So it's different, and some of the things that we learn as fathers is how to talk to our kids and make sure that they we're leaving something behind in a sense. Like my dad left with me his sense of responsibility, his duty, his loyalty more than anything. I mean, he to sit for with one company for almost 30 years is a lot to say for a person, right? I mean, my dad's loyalty goes well beyond the workforce. I mean, him and my mom have been married for 50 years, and that's almost unheard of in today's society, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's I mean, that's crazy to even know and say that somebody's been married for 50 years, right? And but that sense of loyalty is something that I always hold dear and say, I wish I could be like that, right? I know I can't do that because I'm divorced, right? So
Yeah.
I'll never be able to say, man, I had one marriage and it was for 50 years, right?
Right. No,
So
that's where I plan to be with mine. I know every marriage or every relationship for that matter has its bumps, and life throws you curves. I'm not saying that every man is made for every woman or every woman made for every man, right?
Sure.
There's always going to be some hiccups along the way, right?
right.
So it is what it is. I wanted to kind of, again, off in the weeds here. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Dallas and had an opportunity to experience a thing called muster. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
All right, so there's a company called Echelon Front. So there's these two Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, I think is his last name. So they do this thing called the muster. You ever heard of it, John? No. Well, it's basic. It's the title behind the muster is Extreme Ownership. So it's a leadership seminar. It lasts for a few days. And when I tell you this is the most educational seminar I've ever been to, I suggest it to anyone who strives to be a leader in life. Whether it's life or your job, whatever the case may be, it's awesome. I definitely do some investigating. Well, while I went, there was a sign. It was a letter, actually. Some troop, I'm not going to say a soldier, some troop wrote his daughter a letter. And I want to read this thing. And I'm going to try to hold my composure because it definitely hits home for me. All right. Daughter, I will love you unconditionally, always, no matter what. I will not pamper you. This will forego a resilience that will help you conquer all of life's obstacles. I do not intend to raise a princess, but rather a warrior, with fire in her heart and ice in her veins. In my mind, there is nothing you can't do, no job or goal beyond your reach. I will challenge you so that you can stand confidently on your own 2 feet, independent and strong. I will set the example on how to treat those you love so that when you choose a partner, it will be someone who lifts you up. I will invest my time and energy in you so that when I am gone, enough memories of me will be with you in your heart to keep forever. Stand tall with your shoulders back. The world is yours for the taking. Now, the reason I'm reading this, it's not necessarily for your daughter or your son, but this guy, whoever he may be, or I mean, I guess it could have been a woman wrote that. I don't know. He set a standard for himself, as most veterans do for themselves. I'm going to be this person, right? And you as a parent, you're going to raise this child to meet that standard. We all have a mission. So whether you're a parent or not, have a standard, set that standard, and live to that standard. Expect yourself to be that person tomorrow, the next day. Is Is that something that you think we could? And I say we. I'm talking about me and you here because we're a team, right? We work together really close. Is this something that you think we could spread the message throughout our company and the veterans outside of here? Set a standard within yourself. Get out of the mentality that you need this person or you need that person. You need you, right?
Right.
Your mind is your biggest weakness, but it's also your biggest help, right?
Right.
Setting that standard, giving yourself a goal, building a battle plan. These are the steps to success. What do you think?
I mean, I like it. I think it's good. I mean, I guess you would have to figure out how to put that message, kind of like they put it into words, right?
Right, yeah.
It would just be, how would we, send that message out, I guess.
Well, this is a perfect platform to do that.
Yeah.
And it's an initiative.
Sure.
And it's a hope, right? And I say this on just about every podcast, without hope, we have nothing. Literally nothing. I hope that you have safe travels back home, and we pray and we do all these things. But without hope for tomorrow, life's empty.
Sure.
And Lord knows I deal with these empty moments. I am a PTSD survivor, and Carlos is as well. And we chat about this quite a bit. We have struggles in life day to day, and it's day to day. You take it day by day, second by second. We have a program here with Performance called the EAP, Employee Assistance Program. I recently used here a couple of months ago, and I actually called you and explained to you, what difference it made for me that day. And again, going back to September the 11th, it was for some reason this year, it impacted me harder than it has the past 20 years. And I felt like I needed to talk to somebody. My boss, who I usually talk with about situations like this, was out of the office. I didn't have anybody, and I just felt like calling EAP, man. And we just chatted. We just talked. And she basically asked me, what do you need? And I said, I just need someone to talk to. I need someone to listen to what I have to say, and by the end of the conversation, tell me that it's okay, that I'm going to be okay. Have you had any experiences with EAP yet?
I have not. I mean, I do talk to our leadership about it, and every time we train, we bring it up, right? But no, I have. I mean, I use my resources through the
That's
VA.
right. I got you.
So just because, again, I mean, and that's why I said that's a whole nother conversation when
Yep.
we're talking about like how you deal with your family, your daughters. I mean, that's one of the things that I had to do was, in a sense, talk to somebody about how I treat my kids, because I didn't even know I was doing it. Like I yell like that. I'm a yeller. Like that's what I do. And when I get mad, I try to say I'm not mad. I try to say, well, I'm just passionate about it.
Yeah.
But when I get mad because they did something that I didn't like, or they didn't, whatever, I start to yell. And that's one of the conversations that I had to have with, a therapist, in a sense, because I didn't even know I was doing it. Honestly, I didn't know I was yelling at my kids. I didn't know that I was, possibly affecting them, right? So those are things that, where the EAP helps people. I use my, I have a therapist at the VA, and I'm not taking away from this by no means, right?
I use both, so no, I understand.
But,
I understand.
at this point, no, I have not used it. But I think it's a great resource to have. It's a great, and the fact that your family can use it. Like
Right.
if my daughters feel like dad's yelling at me too much, right? They can go and talk to somebody about it, and all of that is confidential, right? So that's just things that we can use. That Performance has done a great job of offering to us and having for us, and because we have a lot of veterans. I mean, how many veterans we got right now?
404.
So 400 veterans. I mean, that's people, and we all go through stuff, right?
Right.
So You know, having those resources like that is a big deal, and it's something that not everybody does. I don't think everybody offers it to the families, right?
Right,
Yeah, they might offer it to an employee, but they may not. They're probably not going to offer it to a family member, right? And again, I'm not 100% accurate on it. I'm just saying.
Oh, I get it.
I
No,
think
I
that
understand.
this is one of the companies that I've paid attention to where I feel like they have that resource there for them.
Sure. And again, if you're listening, understand that for performance employees who helps us put this whole thing on, right? For our employees, it's a priority that they have that connection, that they have that sense of somebody there, right? They have someone to, pour their emotions out to, whatever the case may be, financially, physically, mentally, whatever the case may be. And again, with our military veterans, it seems to be a little more, and I don't mean to say this negatively, needy. I need that. I may not use it, but just in case, it's good to have it there. Sure. I need that. Going to the statistic, the 22 a day, right?
Right.
It's a very sore subject to talk about because I've been there.
Me
And
too.
I know people who have been there, and the mentality that you have, and not saying that I know what you're going through or what you're going through. We have the mindset is so similar at that point in time. You're teetering on the brink. What I can give you is hope.
Right.
Hope that tomorrow won't be as bad as today. It might be worse, but we hope that it's better tomorrow. What can you do today to make tomorrow better?
Right.
If you're going through struggles, call somebody. Call somebody. Let them tell you how much you're loved. Let them tell you how much you have to live for. It might be rough at work. It might be rough in your relationship. It could be a number of things. Somebody's there. Somebody's always there. They might not be there physically, right next to you, but somebody's always worried about you some way, shape, or form. And that's what this podcast is about, letting people know that there is hope, right? And if you're out there working in the field or if you're in the office, wherever you may be, and you're having a rough day, whatever the case may be, your work partner, if you're a welder, your pipe fitter, whatever the case, that person needs to know that you're a veteran and you're, a potential PTSD survivor, or you might not be a veteran and you can still have PTSD.
Sure.
That's what this is for. This is to let people know who our veterans are and that, a lot of us are battling struggles, and we're here to make it live. I want to bring it to life, make it public. We need to know who these veterans are. We need to put our hands on these individuals and let them know, hey, I'm here for you, brother. I'm here for you, sister. You need something? Let me know.
And we do that a lot in our veteran community,
Yes,
right?
we
Like,
do.
I mean, how many times have I called you? 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
I'm my head's not right or whatever,
Right.
right? And a lot of times being military, we tend to focus on having that guy that's been or girl that's been in that same situation, right? That understands what what we go through, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, from time to time, there's more than one friend that I'll call if I'm down or if I'm out or whatever, if I need help, right? And sometimes that works,
Yeah.
but there's times where it don't matter what they say, they don't understand.
That's it.
And you know what I'm talking about.
Yep, I do.
And so sometimes you just need to talk to somebody else, right? Somebody, and somebody that has professional experience, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and we fail tremendously as veterans, and as a veteran community, we fail tremendously when it comes to asking for help. We love to give help. I mean, we do.
Yep.
We love to help people. We love to show people what we're capable of, and hey, how can I help you? but we fail in asking for help for ourselves, right? We think we're, we try to be that, have that Superman complex,
That's
right?
it, yeah.
Where we say, man, we're, we can do this on our own, and a lot of times we can't, and until you realize that you can't do it on your own, and until you sit back and really think about it and ask for help. You don't really progress. I mean, I think that's probably one of the things that really affected me from progression was the fact that I didn't want help. I didn't, and what I didn't realize is that if I would have asked for help, you can get those answers, right? And you can see where you're effective or where you're ineffective. And a lot of times, we fail in that because we think we know it all in a sense. We're
Right,
veterans.
yeah.
We think, man, we got this, right? And that's what we were trained to do. We were trained to always have that mentality. We got this, we can do it no matter what,
Own it.
right? I would say be all you can be, but no, not in the Marine Corps.
What's the Marine Corps thing?
Not the Marine in me,
Yeah.
right? So, but no, I mean, yeah. So we gotta utilize our other veterans, right? Like
right.
people in positions that can help, right?
Right.
Like I reach out to you, like I said, and I know people that reach out to me, and I reach out to other people, right? But yeah, that 22 number a day is it shouldn't be like that. I mean, we have such a really good community of people that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that. We should be there for each other, and that's one of the things I love about performance is that they help in these situations. I mean, we donated Vow 22, right?
Right, yep.
In Freeport, which is a veterans organization, a nonprofit that helps veterans that are going through struggles like this, and it's one of those things that we pride ourselves in, right? Because we feel like we're trying to do our part for veterans, right?
That's exactly right. You're spot on, man. Definitely spot on. There's a lot more that we could talk about, and this thing could go on for hours, right? I want to make it a point to mention that, it's October 30th today, so this thing's probably going to be released in the early days of November. But I want to kind of mention, Halloween being right around the corner. Tomorrow, right? So, ghosts. We're going to flip this thing completely around. We're going to talk about ghosts. You believe in ghosts, Carlos?
I mean, in a sense, yes, because I believe in God and I believe in,
The afterlife, yeah.
Yeah.
Heaven, hell, and all.
Yeah.
But like these little floaty things that come around and, sit on your bed at nighttime. Like, do you believe in that sense of a ghost?
I mean, just growing up the way I grew up, man, yes, I believe that spirits linger. I believe that, that it can, I don't believe
All right, simply put, have you ever had an experience where you believe there was a ghost involved? Dude,
no.
I have. Look, and everybody I know has heard this story. Real quick, I was in the bathroom. I was like 15. I was in the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I was scared of the dark. I've always been scared of the dark. I'm still scared of the dark. So, I'm, hand up on the wall, using a restroom, and I see this figure. It's like a cloud float by the bathroom door. Paid no mind. I was like, okay, figure of my imagination. Well, out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral, I'm peeing, but I'm watching this hallway.
In the dark.
Yeah. Well, I had the bathroom light on. It wasn't dark.
Okay.
But I mean, the hall
Made it
was
sound
the-
like you were
the
peeing in the
hall.
dark.
The hall was
All
dark.
right, continue.
So I see this thing again come the opposite direction. At this point, I am locked tight, like I can't move. I'm like one of those schizophrenic type moments. I'm just locked up. Fear has got me by the throat. And I'm like, okay, if this happens again, if this thing comes by the door one more time, I'm making a run for it. And then I got to thinking, well, I can't just stay here because what if it gets me? What if this thing comes in here and attacks me? Well, I decided to make a run for it. I run out. I'm screaming, hands in the air. I'm freaking out. I run into the bedroom with my mom and my dad. Jump between my mom and dad in the bed. My dad asks me, what the heck is wrong? Of course, there were some choice words. I woke them up. I'm flip-flopping, shaking, and everything in the bedroom. And Dad's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I seen a ghost. I seen a ghost. Well, needless to say, I was disciplined right there. Yep, for seeing a ghost. Yep. So that was my ghost experience. John, have you ever had an experience?
No, not really.
No, man, I'm the only one. Wow.
I did go to the USS Lexington in Corpus, and they have ghost tours. So that's, they say you can hear banging and like on the on the hull of the ship and all kinds of stuff.
That's creepy.
Have you guys had any experiences with ghosts during your service?
No, I don't. Not that I can recall. Nothing as significant as this one while I was, peeing. So, I would have to say no. What about you, Carlos?
Mm-mm. Not that not that I can remember.
If you, whoever's listening to this, if you've had an experience, leave a comment. Let me know. Definitely let me know. And if you're in the Air Force and you want to defend your, what's the word I'm looking for?
Your branch of service.
Yeah, you want to defend your branch of service. Your allegiance to the Air Force. Leave a comment. Let me know. I'll bring you on the show. We'll give you an opportunity to defend your branch. Well, in closing, Carlos, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate your service, not just to the country, but to this company and its people and its veterans. It does not go unnoticed, right? And bringing you in front of this camera, it means a lot to me because I wanted to share somebody's story who was significant to me and somebody that really, really meant a lot to me. And I could think of nobody else better than yourself. So thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you, John. Thank you, Carlos. And it's great to have you tuning in. And until next time, Mike Favre signing off.